Welcome, sleepy traveler. You've arrived at a quiet space made just for you. My name is Valarie, and I am here to guide you gently into rest, to help ease your mind, soften your body, and drift you toward a peaceful, uninterrupted sleep. Whether your day was long or your thoughts feel a little too loud tonight, let this be your permission to slow down, to breathe, and to simply be. There's nothing more to do now. Just allow my voice to be your guide as we begin this gentle journey toward deep, nourishing rest. If you're new here, subscribe for sleep content like this, and like this video if you find it enjoyable. Let's begin. You've arrived at the quiet edge of the day. The sun has tucked itself away. The world has grown softer. And now it's your turn. Your turn to settle. Your turn to let go. You've done enough for today. More than enough. There is nothing else you need to carry. Not now. This is your time to rest, to breathe, to sink deeply into stillness. Take a slow, easy breath in. Let it gently fill your lungs. And now exhale just as slowly. Feel your body begin to unwind. Let your shoulders lower by just a little. Let your jaw unclench. Let your eyes rest, even behind closed lids. There is no need to focus. Only feel. Only breathe. Let the stillness rise to meet you. Like fog rolling in over the hills. Like waves smoothing across sand. Like dusk folding gently around the trees. You are safe in this moment. There is nothing here that asks anything of you. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to solve or decide. There is no pressure here. Only softness. Only stillness. Let your breath find its natural rhythm. No need to change it. Just notice it. Let it be your anchor. A gentle companion as the day fades away. Feel your arms grow heavy. Your hands loose and warm. Feel your legs sink deeper into the bed. Let gravity do the holding. Let the earth support you completely. There is nowhere you need to be. There is nothing to prepare for. Only this. This quiet. This breath. This unfolding into peace. Let your thoughts come and go like birds. You don't need to follow them. Let them flutter past, light and harmless. Your mind is not a machine, it's a garden. And now is the time for it to sleep. To rest under a soft night sky. Let yourself feel that sky above you. Peaceful. Full of stars that watch in silence. Full of calm that knows your name. The stars have no urgency. And neither do you. Inhale gently. Feel it like a wave arriving. Exhale slowly. Feel it like a tide retreating. Back and forth. A rhythm older than memory. A rhythm that belongs to you. You are returning to yourself. To the part of you that remembers how to rest, how to surrender, how to be held by the dark. Let yourself float in that knowing, as if you were weightless, as if you were being carried by air. Let your body continue to soften. Let it speak the language of silence, of slowing down, of deep exhale and release, of ease, of stillness. The muscles behind your eyes rest. The space around your heart opens. Not wide, just enough. Let your heartbeat slow. Let it find the rhythm of calm. Let it be a quiet drum in the distance. You don't have to try to sleep. You don't have to reach for it. Just stay right here. In the gentleness, in the quiet welcome of the night, where everything is soft, where everything is slow. Let the air around you wrap you in calm. Like a cocoon of peace. Like a whisper that says, "You're safe now. Rest now." You've done enough. Let those words echo softly. Let them settle in. Let them become the story of your breath. You don't need to think anymore. Not for now. Not here. You can just be breathing, drifting. Held, just as you are. Exactly as you are. You are enough. You are whole. You are loved. And now the night is ready to take you into a story that waits just beyond the edge of wakefulness. A story shaped like a dream. A journey through calm and comfort. You are ready to follow. There's nothing else you need to do. Just listen. Just breathe. Just rest. And now, with eyes gently closed, with your body relaxed and quiet, with your breath like a lullaby, let go. Let go fully. Let go completely. And enjoy tonight's bedtime story. It all started with a creaky floorboard and an itch of curiosity. The storm had passed the night before, and with the morning sun spilling golden light across the wide meadow outside my den, I felt a strange urge to clean. I'm not usually the tidiest fox on this side of the ridge, but something about the crisp air and birdsong gave me just enough energy to root around in places I hadn't touched in seasons. That's how I ended up in the attic, dust clinging to my whiskers, cobwebs in my ears, my tail knocking into every old crate like it had a mind of its own. Most of the attic was filled with the usual things: faded quilts stitched by Grandma Furnabelle, a half-cracked teacup I once used as a child, and a shoebox labeled "Don't Touch Acorn Collection, Age 5." But then, tucked behind a wooden chest, I found it. An old lantern. Its frame was brass, tarnished in that charming storybook way. The glass was fogged a bit, but the shape, round like a pumpkin with little stars etched into the panes, stirred something in my memory. I didn't recall ever using it. Maybe it had belonged to Great Uncle Fernley, the one who always smelled of cinnamon and liked to whistle to frogs. I carried it down like it was something delicate, something sacred. It felt right. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the meadow turned its soft purples and oranges, I lit the lantern. To my surprise, it worked. A steady, golden glow poured out, gentle and warm. Not too bright, not too dim, just enough to hush the darkness around it. I stepped outside with it, paused silent on the path. The scent of summer was in the air, sweet clover, warm earth, and a hint of wood smoke from far-off chimneys. The fireflies were already beginning their dance. Now I should tell you something about our meadow. It's famous, in its own quiet way. Every summer night, just after twilight, the fireflies appear in thick, swirling ribbons. They flicker above the tall grasses, over the little stream between cattails and mossy stones. Some say they're looking for something. Others believe they're trying to remember the shape of the stars. But tonight was different, because tonight they noticed me, or rather, they noticed my lantern. At first it was just one. A single curious glow that hovered near the rim, blinking softly. Then another, and another. Within moments, I was surrounded by a gentle cloud of tiny lights, like a constellation had drifted down from the sky to walk with me. I kept walking, slowly, deeper into the meadow, the lantern swinging at my side. And they followed. It wasn't the usual chaotic dance of summer insects. No, this was purposeful, almost polite. The fireflies floated in patterns, forming soft spirals, tiny arcs of light that shimmered just beyond my whiskers. One brave little flicker even landed on my ear for a moment before blinking off into the grass. I smiled, though no one could see. We made our way past the pond where the frogs held their evening symphony, past the old willow that leaned like it was whispering secrets to the moon, and down the hill that led to the hollow grove, the one most folks forgot about. It was a shy little spot, wrapped in vines and soft moss, with ferns taller than I am, and mushrooms that glowed faintly at night. And as I stepped into the grove, something astonishing happened. The fireflies gathered in a swirling circle around me, then scattered all at once into the shadows of the grove. For a moment I thought I'd lost them, but then through the glass of the lantern I saw their light again. Not in one place, but dozens, hundreds, filling the grove like stars spilled from a velvet bag. The whole place came alive. That's when I understood. They hadn't been lost exactly. They'd been waiting. The lantern somehow had shown them the path home. I sat on a smooth stone in the center of the grove, paws wrapped around the warm frame of the lantern. The air buzzed gently with light, and I felt something settle in my chest. Not pride, not joy exactly, but that quiet, cozy feeling you get when you've just baked something for friends and everyone's full and happy. Belonging. The fireflies began to blink slower, more rhythmically, like they were sighing into the moss and readying themselves for dreams. I leaned back against a tree and let my eyes drift upward. The stars above winked through the canopy, a mirror of the ones dancing below. And I thought, maybe this lantern isn't just a lantern. Maybe it's a guide, or a memory, or a kind of key. The night deepened, and I knew I should head back soon, before the dew made my tail too soggy. But I lingered just a while longer, letting the hush of the grove fill my ears and heart. When I finally rose and began my slow walk home, the fireflies stayed in their grove. A few trailed behind for a moment, as if to say thank you. I whispered a soft, "You're welcome," into the night. Back at my den, I placed the lantern on the windowsill. Its glow had faded a little, but it still held that gentle warmth. I brewed myself a cup of chamomile and curled up in my favorite blanket, the one with the frayed corner and the stitched-on patch shaped like a pine cone. I sipped, exhaled, and watched the soft light flicker. Tomorrow I'd return to the grove. Maybe I'd bring a snack. Maybe I'd sit quietly and see what else the lantern wanted to show. But for now, I rested, because sometimes the first light of something new is enough to carry you gently into dreams. And in that little den at the edge of a wide glowing meadow, I, Fernwick the fox, fell asleep with fireflies in my thoughts and a lantern by my side. It began with just a feeling, a quiet tug in my chest, as I sipped my tea the next evening. The lantern still sat on the windowsill where I'd left it the night before, catching the soft orange of sunset on its glass panes. Outside, the meadow yawned in golden pink light. A breeze drifted in, scented with wild thyme and clover, and something about it whispered, "It's time." So I stood, wrapped my favorite scarf loosely around my neck, a gift from Badger, hand-knitted with more love than symmetry, and lit the lantern once more. It flickered to life easily, as though it had been waiting for me. As I stepped out, the hush of evening greeted me like an old friend. My paws moved without hesitation, down the gentle slope behind my den and into the waving grasses of the meadow. But this time, I didn't walk toward the grove. Tonight felt different, not grand, but sacred in its own simple way. Tonight I walked the western path. The fireflies must have noticed the lantern's glow immediately, because by the time I passed the old wooden post where morning bird sometimes perches to sing, they had already begun to appear. First just a few, then dozens, soft lights blinking to life as if summoned by a memory. They didn't fly in a cloud like before. No, tonight they formed little rivers of glow, streaming behind and beside me, trailing through the grass like ribbons of living stardust. It was beautiful in a way I didn't have words for, only breath and stillness, and the sound of my own slow steps in the clover. As I rounded a bend near the blackberry thickets, I heard a rustle, then a pause. A cluster of rabbits, their ears perked and eyes wide, sat frozen near the bramble edge. Normally they'd dart off at the sound of paw steps, but not tonight. Tonight they watched. One blinked, then inched forward a pace. Another tilted its head as if listening to the rhythm of the fireflies blinking around us. And then, ever so gently, they sat, just sat, and watched me walk by, as if my lantern carried something not just light, but a kind of peace. I nodded to them politely, as one should when rabbits are watching, and onward I walked. The path curved again, dipping low through a hollow where the grasses grew taller, swaying like sleepy dancers. Fireflies rose to greet them, brushing the stalks with soft pulses of glow. Above me, the sky deepened to a velvety blue, and just as I reached the far side of the hollow, I spotted them, deer. A whole family of them, standing between the tree shadows and meadow edge. Their bodies were still as statues, antlers tipped in starlight. But their eyes followed the lantern, calm, steady, not afraid. The largest one, a broad-shouldered buck with a patch of white on his chest, lowered his head, not in alarm, but in reverence, like he was acknowledging something ancient that had returned to the land. It startled me how solemn it felt. Not heavy, no, just meaningful. As though I'd become part of something bigger than myself and I hadn't even realized it. I kept walking, and they let me pass, the fireflies twirling upward around their legs like a blessing, Soon the trees thinned again, giving way to the far edge of the meadow. I could see the hill that led back home if I turned left, but something above caught my attention. A soft flutter, then another. Owls. At least 3, their wings silent as they circled overhead. Their round eyes blinked down at me, and for a moment I wondered if they too had been drawn by the lantern's glow, or by the quiet procession it inspired. They made no sound, just glided in wide, lazy loops as if tracing the path from above. I waved once, smiling to myself. "Evening, friends," I whispered. They did not answer, but their silence was not unkind. At the top of the next rise, I paused. The lantern still flickered steadily. I held it out, letting it cast soft shadows in every direction. All around me the meadow shimmered, glow after glow, blinking in soft waves as far as my eyes could see. The fireflies weren't just following anymore. They were spreading, branching off into soft tributaries of light, echoing the shape of my path as if painting the air with memory. And it occurred to me, standing there with the wind brushing my fur and the lantern humming gently in my paw, that something had shifted. This wasn't just a walk anymore. It was a ritual, a gentle promise. Each night I could walk a different stretch of the meadow, carry the lantern, offer the light, let the fireflies gather and drift where they would. Let the animals pause and remember stillness. Let the owls draw their quiet maps in the sky. The thought settled into me like warm tea in a cold belly. I turned homeward, taking a new route through the tall grasses. The fireflies followed, and I imagined my footprints leaving invisible marks that would hum for hours afterward, soft reminders that someone had passed with care and intention. When I reached my den, the lantern's glow was dimming, not from lack of oil, but as if it knew it was time to rest. I placed it once again on the windowsill and sat beside it, watching the meadow through the glass. In the dark, it looked like the stars had fallen, not crashing or burning, but landing gently, blinking softly in the grasses where they belonged. I smiled. Tomorrow, I'd walk the northern trail. Who knows what would happen then? But for now, I curled up in my armchair with a well-worn book, the lantern beside me, the meadow beyond, and the peaceful thought that I had helped bring a little more light to the world. One path at a time. I never expected the lantern to change anything outside myself. Truly, it began as a quiet curiosity, something to carry through the hush of twilight, something to walk with while the crickets sang and the fireflies danced like tiny wishes in the air. But the meadow, it seems, had plans for more. It was the 4th night of my walks when I met her. I'd chosen the southern bend that evening, the one that led near the thistle patch and dipped gently past the old birch stump. The lantern swung softly at my side, golden light fanning out over moss and dew-heavy grass. The fireflies, as usual, had gathered like they knew the hour by heart. And then I heard it. A sneeze. No, a squeak. Then the unmistakable sound of someone muttering to themselves while stepping on every unfortunate twig in existence. I stopped. From beneath a drooping fern, a tiny shape emerged, round, bristled, and wearing an expression of utter defeat. "Blast it," she huffed, her nose twitching. "I took a left at the tall rock, not the lopsided one. Or was it right?" She hadn't noticed me yet. Her quills were dusted with pollen, and her tiny spectacles hung crooked on her snout. "Evening," I said gently, tilting the lantern her way. The hedgehog startled, spinning in a slow, prickly circle before blinking up at me. Her eyes squinted at the light. "Oh!" she gasped. "A fox with a... Oh my, is that a lantern?" I dipped my head. "Name's Fernwick. You seem a little... lost?" she finished. "Utterly. Hopelessly. The burrow's out here somewhere, and my sense of direction left hours ago." She adjusted her spectacles and added, "I'm Nettle. Nettle Mossbloom. I don't suppose you know where the elderberry bush splits near the flat stone with the mossy top." "I've passed it a few times," I said. "Would you like some company getting home?" Her shoulders slumped in relief. "I thought you'd never ask." So we walked. Slowly at first. Her legs were short, and she insisted on narrating every landmark. "I once found a beetle under that root, had the audacity to hiss at me." The fireflies parted gently for her as she shuffled forward, and soon we found the flat stone she'd mentioned, followed by the elderberry bush leaning like a sleepy doorkeeper. "That's the one!" she cried, pointing her little paw. Sure enough, just behind it, tucked between the roots of a crooked tree, was a tiny burrow entrance lined with dandelion fluff. Nettle turned to me, eyes wide. I never realized how dark the meadow truly is until I tried to cross it without the moon. But your lantern, it's like walking with a star. I smiled. It's helped me too. She hesitated, then said softly, "Would you mind if I joined you tomorrow night? Just a little ways. It's been a long time since I had a walk just for the sake of it." "Of course," I said. "We'll find a new path together." And we did. The next evening, Nettle appeared at the edge of her burrow just as I reached the flat stone. She was wearing a tiny scarf, green with an acorn pattern, and carried a folded leaf in case of rain. She walked beside me without a map this time, trusting the lantern's glow. But we weren't alone for long. As we approached the tall grass that borders the far side of the stream, a rustling sound made Nettle stop mid-step. I held up the lantern, casting a soft arc of light ahead. 5 tiny noses peeked out from the underbrush. "Children," whispered a high, worried voice. "Come back. Don't go too far." From the grass emerged a family of mice, 6 in total. A mother, father, and 4 little ones that clung to each other like beads on a string. The smallest had a piece of hay in her mouth and looked entirely unbothered. "We're so sorry," said the mouse mother breathlessly. "They saw your light and thought it was the moon coming down to visit." "It's no trouble," I said. "Are you headed across the meadow?" "To the stone burrow on the east ridge." said the father, glancing at the tall grass. But the little ones kept getting tangled and turned around. "You're welcome to follow us," I offered. "The path's gentler up ahead." The relief on their faces was enough to warm my fur. And so the lantern walk grew. Nettle walked beside me. The mice followed behind, their children squeaking softly with wonder each time a firefly landed on their whiskers. The path opened into a gentle clearing, and the lantern glowed brighter, as if pleased by the company. The mice reached their ridge soon after, waving their thanks before disappearing into a nest of leaves. Nettle and I stood together for a long while, watching the fireflies ripple out into the sky like glowing threads. "You were right," Nettle whispered. "This isn't just a walk." "No," I said. "It's becoming something more." Each night after that brought someone new. A badger with aching joints who found comfort in walking just far enough to feel the night air on his back. A pair of young raccoons, mischievous and wide-eyed, who walked with us once and then started their own little lanternless stroll with glow sticks made from moss and laughter. Even a quiet toad joined us one evening, hopping patiently behind, saying nothing but never straying far from the glow, and always, always the fireflies. They wove through the air like threads of gold, lighting the path before us, lingering just behind. The lantern had become more than a tool. It was a guide, a gathering point, a gentle promise that no one had to wander the night alone. Sometimes we didn't speak at all, just walked in silence, each step falling into rhythm with the chirr of crickets and the hush of breeze across the grass. Sometimes we shared stories. Nettle told of her days in the garden school, where she'd once eaten a book on accident. It was about mushrooms and frankly tasted like them too. And I shared tales of my kit days, chasing shadows and pretending I was a comet. The lantern listened to it all. Its flame never wavered. One night, just before sleep, I sat beside it and ran a paw along its curved glass. "You're changing the whole meadow," I whispered, and somewhere deep in my chest, I felt it flicker in agreement. It was the kind of night that made you pause at your door. The air was heavy, not stormy, not wild, but still, expectant, as if the whole meadow were holding its breath. Clouds cloaked the stars, thick and low like wool pulled over the sky, and the moon, she did not come. I stood at the edge of my den, lantern in paw, scarf tucked snug around my neck, and looked out over the dark. The fireflies weren't dancing yet. The usual golden shimmer in the tall grass was gone. Everything felt softer, quieter, and not in the peaceful way. I'd never seen the meadow so dark. There was no silver sheen on the pond, no glint on the willow leaves, no friendly silhouettes of trees in the distance. Just a blur of shapes, all swallowed by shadow. Still, I lit the lantern. It flickered to life with a soft hiss, then steadied into its warm amber glow. The light stretched out like a whisper through the night. Just a few feet, but enough. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The path felt different beneath my paws, familiar yet uncertain. I knew every curve, every stone, but tonight each step asked for a little more trust. As I walked, the grasses rustled more than usual. A few moments later, I realized I wasn't alone. Fernwick? It was Nettle. She appeared from behind a thistle clump, her tiny glasses fogged, her quills dusted with sleep. "I thought I'd missed you," she said softly, "but I couldn't sleep. It's too dark tonight." I nodded. The sky's gone shy. She fell in beside me, not saying much else, just walking, one paw in front of the other. Further down the path, we passed the burrow where the mice lived. A small head poked out, followed by another, then two more. "Are you still walking tonight?" the mouse father asked. "I am," I replied. "Would you like to join?" He hesitated. "They're afraid," he said, gesturing to the little ones. "They said the stars went away." "Stars don't leave," Nettle whispered. "They just hide sometimes." The family gathered their cloaks and stepped into the path, drawn to the gentle glow of the lantern. And then something happened, something I'll never forget. The fireflies returned, not as scattered glimmers in the grass, but as a slow gathering cloud. They clustered close to the lantern, hovering near my shoulders, brushing Nettle's quills, blinking softly around the mice. It was as if they too had been waiting for a sign, for a reason to step into the darkness. The light drew them out, not boldly, but bravely. And so we walked. Lantern in front, fireflies like a second flame, and our little group growing step by careful step. A rustle behind us brought a soft grunt. Badger. He limped toward us, his coat damp with dew. "Didn't think you'd walk tonight," he said. "Didn't think I wouldn't," I answered, smiling. He nodded once and fell into line. Next came the raccoons, their usual mischief quieted by the weight of the night. Then a doe and her fawn. Then Wren, perched lightly on my shoulder for once instead of darting ahead. Soon there were more paws than I could count, more eyes watching the flicker, more hearts beating in step with mine. We weren't loud. No laughter tonight, no chatter. Just the soft sound of fur brushing fur, paws on damp earth, wings stirring the hush. The kind of silence that feels sacred, like a lullaby no one wants to interrupt. The lantern glowed brighter, or maybe it didn't. Maybe we simply leaned into it more, all of us. Maybe the darkness taught us how to listen to the light. As we crossed the meadow's belly, past the sleepy pond and into the deep hollow, the procession stretched like a stream of starlight. I looked behind and saw a ribbon of glows weaving through the grass, winding and warm. That's when I realized this wasn't just a lantern walk anymore. It was something older, something deeper, a remembering of what it means to walk together when things are uncertain, of what it means to share a flame instead of waiting for the sky to shine again. At one point, little Poppy Mouse stumbled. I paused, lowering the lantern so she could see the roots at her feet. Her father scooped her up, murmuring softly. The lantern's glow reflected in his eyes. "Thank you," he said. I didn't know if he meant the light or the walk or simply the fact that we hadn't turned back, but I nodded anyway. "It's not just mine anymore," I said. "It's all of ours." The clouds never parted, not once. The stars stayed hidden, and the moon remained tucked away like a pearl in deep velvet. But it didn't matter, because by the time we reached the high ridge at the edge of the meadow, the one where the sky feels closer and the wind always hums through the stones, we were shining enough on our own. The fireflies circled slowly around the group, their glows matching the rise and fall of our breath. Nettle nestled into a patch of moss. Badger sat with a grunt, bones creaking. The deer folded their legs beside the foxgloves. The mice curled into one another like clover buds. No one spoke for a long while. And then, quietly, wren sang. Just one line, a note like a question, then another like a memory, then a third, soft and low like a promise. Others hummed in response, voices not raised in celebration but in comfort, in presence. We had become a lantern ourselves. That night I didn't lead the walk home. We walked together, no front, no back. Just a glowing circle drifting back across the meadow like a floating seed of light. Back at my den, I placed the lantern on the windowsill, same as always. But I stayed up a while longer, sitting on the stoop, paws wrapped around a warm mug of nettle tea, watching the fireflies blink slowly back into the dark grass. Even without the stars, even without the moon, the meadow had not been empty. And now I knew, deep in my fur and bones, that even on the darkest nights, a single flame can guide more than just one soul. It can gather many. It can keep hearts steady. It can remind us that we are never truly alone. And that, perhaps, is the truest light of all. By midsummer, the meadow was more than just a place where I lived. It had become a rhythm, a quiet heartbeat. Each evening, just as the last streaks of sunlight slipped behind the hills and the grasses turned the color of ripe peaches, I would step outside with the lantern in paw, and without fail, the meadow waited. I never rang a bell, never sent word. I simply walked. And yet every night they came. Nettle with her green acorn scarf and a new story to tell, usually about her dream the night before, which always included oddly polite turnips. The mouse family, now walking more confidently as their little ones grew. Badger, slower these days, but still determined, leaning on a stick carved by the raccoons. The deer, the owls, the curious birds and wandering frogs. Even creatures I didn't know by name started to appear at the edge of the lantern glow, silent, respectful, keeping just enough distance to feel safe but close enough to be seen. Some came only once, some came every night, but all of them, I think, came for the same reason. The light. Not just the lantern's glow, though that helped. It was something deeper, something quieter, a sense of being welcome, of belonging, of being seen in the dark without needing to explain why you were there. One night a young squirrel scampered alongside me for a few paces, cheeks full of mulberries. He looked up and said between chews, "You're the lantern keeper now, aren't you?" I blinked. "The what?" He grinned. "That's what we call you. You keep the lantern. You keep the path. You keep everyone safe." I laughed, ears folding back. "Is that so?" He nodded enthusiastically, then darted ahead to leap onto a cattail like it was a parade float. I didn't think much of it then. Just a nickname. A bit of silliness from a child with berry-stained paws. But it stuck. "Lantern keeper!" Nettle would call when she spotted me from her burrow. "Lantern keeper, wait up!" the raccoons would shout, bouncing after me with leaf bundles and flashlights they'd made from glowing mushrooms. Those didn't last long, but they were proud anyway. And slowly, without my asking, the name settled into the meadow like dew. At first I felt embarrassed. I hadn't meant to become anything at all. I was just walking, just carrying a light through the dark. But then I realized, maybe that's exactly what a keeper does. Not because they're the strongest, or the fastest, or the most important, but because they care enough to keep showing up. So I let the name rest on my shoulders, gentle and warm. Not a crown, not a title, just a truth. And the lantern walks continued. By late summer the meadow seemed to glow even before I stepped outside. The animals had begun bringing their own lights, firefly jars, soft moss lanterns, even petals dipped in glowing dew. Some brought songs, others brought silence. We didn't always walk far anymore. Sometimes we just gathered in a clearing and let the light bloom between us. One evening, Nettle brought a little sign she'd made out of bark and twine. It said, "The Lantern Keeper's Circle. All are welcome." She hung it from a crooked branch, and no one questioned it. Not long after, a fox I'd never met came from the eastern woods. He was lean and wary, his eyes scanning the group with quiet caution. "I heard about the walks," he said. "Didn't think someone like me would be welcome." "You're already here," I told him. "That's welcome enough." He stayed the whole evening, didn't say much. But when we parted ways, he gave me a nod I'll never forget. Not grateful, not polite, just honest, like he understood. That was the night I started to wonder how long the lantern would last. Not the light, exactly, but the walking, the gathering. Would it fade with the summer? Would the meadow grow quiet again come autumn? I didn't have an answer. I just kept walking. And then, one evening, I found the hill. It wasn't a new hill. I'd passed it many times. But that night, something about it called to me. It wasn't the tallest hill in the meadow, nor the smoothest, but it faced the stars just right. The wind moved like a lullaby across it, so I climbed to the top. The lantern swayed gently in my paw. Behind me I could hear the others approaching, the soft thump of paws, the flit of wings, the familiar creak of Badger's walking stick. When they reached the base, they looked up, waiting. I turned slowly to face them all. My friends, I said, this lantern has guided us well, but I've come to think that maybe it's not really mine. There was a hush, the kind that held breath, not silence. I was never the source of the light, I continued, only the one who carried it. I set the lantern down on a smooth, flat stone at the hilltop's center. The fireflies came first, a swirl of them, glowing softly, circling the lantern like petals in a breeze. Then came the others, Nettle, the mice, the raccoons, the fox from the east, creatures I didn't even recognize. They didn't ask questions, didn't make speeches. They just gathered. The lantern glowed steadily, casting its gentle light over us all. One of the little mice curled up beside it and yawned. Wren sang a note so soft it barely stirred the grass. I lay down beside the stone, letting the wind comb through my fur. Above us the clouds had cleared, the stars had returned, and the meadow, oh, the meadow was quiet and full and alive. That night I didn't walk the path home. I stayed there on the hilltop, watching the lantern's glow mingle with the starlight. And I realized something that had taken me the whole summer to understand. The lantern didn't gather others because it was bright. It gathered them because it was steady, because it moved gently through the dark and said, "Here I am, come if you need." And sometimes that's all anyone really needs. Just one light to follow, one heart willing to hold the glow. So now, even when I don't walk, the hilltop lantern remains, a beacon, a resting place, a quiet promise. And I am Fernwick, a fox with a steady paw, a soft voice, and a heart full of fireflies. They call me the Lantern Keeper, and I keep on shining. And that ends tonight's meditation. You're welcome to stay for a bit longer if you like. Have a beautiful night. Until next time.